Hey guys, how's it going? So I hope you're having a good day today, and I hope all is going well with you. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about not really so much a rant, but kind of pointing something out. And what I wanted to point out is how classic hit stations, for the most part, have too tight of playlists, meaning it's the same safe songs over and over again. Now, I know with corporate radio that's kind of the thing, but a few of these stations have just gotten absolutely ridiculous with just their super tight playlists. And there's a lot of songs out there that were big back in the day that don't get hardly any airplay at all. So for me, what gets overplayed is anything by Journey, the Pina Colada song by Rupert Holmes. Gosh, what else? Anything by Van Halen, seemingly. And I could go down the list, but those are some of the artists that I think just get played to death. And I'm thinking, like, sheesh, isn't there something else you guys could play besides that? Now, a lot of people think, like, if you're in a larger radio market, that the stations are going to be better. Well, I've come to find that's actually not the case. A lot of smaller market stations, especially, I would say, in small towns or even sometimes rural areas, tend to actually have better playlists. Actually, who has a pretty good playlist is actually Westwood One's Classic Hits station, and then Westwood One's Classic Hits Rock. Those have pretty good playlists, and I've heard some stuff on there that I have not heard in a lot of other places. But we're going to focus more on like local live stations. And I'm going to point out some songs that should get played that don't for whatever reason. So I've got a list right here, and I'll go through them, and I'll see what you guys think, and you guys can comment if you want to. So the first song would be Bang a Gong, Get It On by the Power Station. Now that's a remake of the T-Rex song from the early 1970s. And honestly, sometimes remakes of songs aren't the greatest, but I'll be honest with you, I think that version is a lot better than the original. No disrespect to the late T-Rex, by the way. But what do I want to say here? So the Power Station was a short-lived supergroup, and it was Robert Palmer, John and Andy Taylor of Duran Duran, and Tony Thompson of Chic. And they put out actually two albums, one in the 80s and they put one out in the mid-90s. But the one in the mid-80s had a remake of Bang a Gong, Get It On, and Some Like It Hot. But Bang a Gong, Get It On by them does not get the airplay it should, and that's like it's like a quintessential mid-80s song. And I mean, with that band lineup, I mean, how could you go wrong? That was definitely the supergroup of supergroups. So we'll move on. So there's a few tracks by Billy Joel that don't get played. Like My Life gets played a lot. Piano Man gets played a lot. Big Shot and For the Longest Time gets played a lot. But some of the songs from Joel's album The Bridge don't get played. So Modern Woman hardly gets played. That was actually in the movie Ruthless People. That doesn't really ever get any play. Nor does Matter of Trust for some reason. Then his song Second Wind, which was on his, I think it was on one of his greatest hits albums that came out like about 1985. That hardly gets played. So next is John Waite Change, which was from John Waite's first solo album after the Babies broke up. That song doesn't get played. Really, the only song that gets played by him is Missing You, but this particular song doesn't, and I don't know why. So, next one would be Talking Heads' Wild Wild Life, which was from the movie True Stories. Some of Talking Heads songs get played to death, especially Burning Down the House and She Was and Take Me to the River, which is actually a remake song. But Wild Wild Life doesn't really get a lot of play, nor does Nothing But Flowers. Next would be Toto's Pamela. Now, like with Toto, Hold the Line and Rosanna get played quite a bit, but Pamela, which was a hit later on, I think it was like around 1988, 1989, really doesn't get a lot of play. Next is Peter Cetera, Big Mistake, which is from his first solo album. Now, The Glory of Love from The Karate Kid, that gets played quite a bit. And Next Time I Fall in Love gets played quite a bit. But Big Mistake it wasn't his biggest hit, but it made the top 40. And I think that should be on a classic hits station. Next artist would be Paul Davis. Now, Paul Davis, the late Paul Davis, is one of those artists where you've heard a few of his songs, but like you don't know who he is, but you know the songs. So first one is 65 Love Affair, and then Cool Night. Neither of those songs hardly get any airplay, and they really should. Next one's going to be Robert Palmer, Looking for Clues. Like obviously Addicted to Love, Bad Case of Loving You gets played quite a bit. But Looking for Clues was a song of his that I've always felt was overlooked. So that should get played. Next would be Pablo Cruz, What You Gonna Do. Now, Love Will Find a Way gets played a lot. But, again, this What You Gonna Do doesn't get played a lot. So, kind of going back to John Waite a little bit, The Babies' Isn't It Time? I hardly ever hear that song on a classic hit station, and it should get played. So, next one, and the next few actually are going to be from the 90s, and maybe these aren't going to be the biggest hits in the world, but I feel they belong on a classic hit station. One would be Wonderful by Adam Ant, which came out in the mid-90s. Wasn't his biggest song, but it did get some airplay back in the day. Next one is J.A.R. by Green Day, which was in the movie Angus, and I can't remember what the name was, but the song was about Mike Dirnt, who's in Green Day. It was about a friend of his that died, and it was sort of a tribute song. And actually, amongst Green Day fans, it's actually considered a favorite. But that song really doesn't get played. Next song's going to be Sun Volt, Drown. And this one might have you scratching your head a little bit. This song received a lot of airplay in the mid-90s. I mean, I remember hearing this on some rock stations back about 1996 or so. And it did chart. But Sun Volt was kind of... it was in the same category with what you would call kind of indie country rock, sort of, like, or what another term that was used was barn rock. Like, I think Sun Volt came, I believe that was a successor to Uncle Tupelo. And then there was a band called Wilco that had a couple of minor hits. So I think the song Drown deserves to be played once in a while. So, going back to the 80s, next would be Pretty Poison, Catch Me I'm Falling. Now, that's Pretty Poison. That's not Poison. What you think of like Bret Michaels and CeCe DeVille and everything. That's not who this is. Catch Me I'm Falling, I think was actually, once again, it was from a movie. I think the movie was called Hiding Out, I believe, but Pretty Poison had a pretty big hit with that song in 1987. Next would be Squeeze, Hourglass. And Squeeze, of course, did Black Coffee in Bed, Tempted, Pulling Muscles from a Shell. Well, this hit was from 1987. And this, I believe Paul Carrack left the band by this time. But Hourglass is a terribly overlooked song, in my opinion. And next would be Aerosmith's Let the Music Do the Talking. Not one of their biggest hits, but I still think it deserves a place on a classic hit station. It was from an album they did called Done with Mirrors. And it wasn't their biggest album. It was an attempt at a comeback album that just didn't fully work out. But it's actually a favorite among a lot of fans, and the record really didn't get the appreciation back in the day, but the song got some airplay, so I think it should get played once in a while. So next would be Steely Dan, and they definitely have some of their songs do get played for sure, like Reelin' in the Years is one. Do It Again is another one that I can think of. Hey 19. But a couple of these don't get played enough. FM and My Old School don't get played a lot. Green Earrings doesn't get played a lot either, and those songs should get played. Next one's going to be a little bit of a weird choice, but it's a 90s song. It's called Sister by the Nixons, which did get a decent amount of airplay, and it was kind of a one-hit wonder. It's a little bit more of obscure of a track, but I think it deserves to be played, which would be the next one, Tracy Bonham's Mother, Mother. Again, this was bigger on alternative rock radio, but it got some airplay on rock radio. So I think, again, that deserves a place. The next one and the final one I'll name would be You Wreck Me by Tom Petty, which is from his Wildflowers album, which had You Don't Know How It Feels. But You Wreck Me got some airplay, but it really doesn't get a lot of airplay, I find. So I think that should get some airplay too. So what do you guys think? Is there a song that I missed that should be added? What do you guys think of those songs? Do you think those would be good additions? Do you think some of them I may be going out in the wilderness a little too much on? What do you think? Well, guys, that's going to do it for me. I want to thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so. And as always, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one.